The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Nick Fantasy. Sign up promo code SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football in the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 70 free trial today. Look into sportsgambling.com, RATHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's currently Saturday afternoon, roughly 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on October 12th. I'm your host, as always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a short episode because there's only one match to preview. It's officially final time in Shanghai. Fun matchup between Sinner and Djokovic, so should be once again a potential classic. We're going to preview that in a little while, but before we do that, I do want to recap what happened in the last episode. Starting off with the lock and dog picks, overall a great episode for us. Ended up sweeping, ended up winning with the Joker first set and full match combo at minus 142. Line dropped to minus 130. Don't know why. Joker owns Fritz. It's the same story every time. I believe Joker is now 10-0 lifetime against Fritz, and he's won the first set as well in all 10 meetings. So he backed the 9-0 trend in the head-to-head, turned into 10-0, and Joker did win in straight sets. Now, Fritz did have a set point there in the second set, but Joker, I'd say, controlled most of the match, if I'm being honest, and it just felt like Joker was kind of a step ahead throughout most of the actual rallies. So either way, nice win there for Joker and for us. For the dog, had the over 20.5 games in the Makic and Sinner match at even money. That got there as the match landed 22. So once again, had a pretty rough episode for the quarters. We bounced back for the semis, and hopefully we'll sweep again here for the final on a Sunday. Either way, though, before we get into the actual breakdown of the matches, do want to remind everybody once again that you can show support for the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube, and a reminder that you can also leave a rating and a review for the podcast on Spotify or Apple if you listen to the podcast audio only. So you can show some support. If you're new to the show, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you are back, welcome back. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content, and hopefully, once again, you remember to hit the like button before leaving the stream. Anyway, I do want to also remind everyone once again that we do have a fundraiser going on right now with the network, as SGPN has been raising money for victims of Hurricane Helene, which has been devastating to the people of Western North Carolina. SGPN is teaming up with a local charity, mountainprojects.org, to help give back. Biggest donation, we'll get a guest spot on the Comfortable Pick Show and a ton of gear. Go to mountainprojects.org, hit flood support, help out today. Thank you in advance. Plus, a reminder, thank you for tuning into the Tennis Gambling Podcast, and whether it's this podcast, the NBA show, WNBA show, a lot of, once again, shows on the network, you can head over to Spotify and leave us a 5-star rating. Only you can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. So please do so before you forget. Anyway, I do want to recap the actual matches. Did mention that we did sweep the lock and dog picks. Matches were pretty straightforward based on how I predicted them. This is what happened. I ended up seeing Joker beat Fritz in a competitive 2 sets. What I expected. I saw a breaker in the second set where Fritz had a set point, didn't convert, and then you saw Joker eventually get the job done there with his first, his first match point. He ended up converting, but you ended up seeing, once again, Joker just look very comfortable, and you saw Fritz struggle to actually generate many breakpoint chances. Joker only went 1 for 9 on breakpoint chances, but he had 9 of them, and Fritz only had 2, did not break. So Joker had more aces, had 0 double faults, and besides the, once again, drunken forehand return, or I should say the drunken forehand returning, or the yips late in that first set against Mensik, Joker's been basically flawless this entire week, and we'll see if he can win his first ATP title of the season with a matchup against Sinner on deck for Sunday. As for Sinner, that match was competitive as well, which I thought was going to be the case. As Sinner won the first set 6-4, was a bit misleading, though, because Makic was on serve in the 4-5 game, and then eventually got broken to give Sinner the set. And then Makic hung in there as he ended up losing the second set 7-5. So Sinner got the job done. He served well, 10 aces, 1 fault. Did win 74% of the first serve points, 61% of the second serve points. According to the stats, Sinner probably should have won more comfortably. But Makic showed some firepower. He was able to once again showcase some serious, I'd say, fearlessness throughout the course of this matchup. He went for it, and unfortunately, Sinner was a bit too much late. But either way, Makic showed a respectable, I'd say, effort in that match. And he had a good tournament as he beat Alcaraz and made a pretty deep run, beating Paul again for about the second time in 2 weeks. So Makic has been one of the, I'd say, steady risers on tour for the last month, or for the last, couple months, including the U.S. Open. So hopefully we'll see him once again continue his solid performance in the last couple of months in the season, as well as the rest of his career. But point is, Sinner was too good, and now we have a very fun final setup for Sunday between between Sinner and Djokovic since Alcaraz ended up losing. We ended up getting Sinner getting an easier path because he faced off against Monkic instead of Alcaraz. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual preview of that final, I do want to touch upon the women's event actually quickly, because in Wuhan you have a pretty competitive final coming up, at least based on the overall rankings of the players, as you have Sabalenka taking on Zhang. Now, for this one, Zhang, not exactly a shock to get here, as she, of course, is Chinese, home country advantage, and she did make a pretty solid showing in hardcourt events this season. We saw her in the Australian Open final against Sabalenka, so I know that she's capable of being a solid hardcourt player. We have seen Sabalenka look good against her, as Sabalenka's 3-0 lifetime against her, but Zhang made a deep run. However, do want to touch upon how Sabalenka actually made it to the final, because that was not an easy match. In fact, Goff was dominating most of it. Goff won the first set 6-1 and then was up 4-2 in the second set. So 6-1, 4-2, and she choked the damn thing. Ended up seeing Sabalenka come back and win. I believe Sabalenka went from down 4-2 in the second to winning 6-4 with going up 3-0. So that means that Sabalenka basically won via bagel if you want to merge both sets together, second and third. So, point is, Goff completely imploded, and Sabalenka got the job done. Not exactly a shock that Goff, once again, kind of fell apart in a big moment, but she had 21 double faults. 21 double faults. Maybe it's not your coach. Just going to throw it out there. I know that Gilbert and you weren't exactly working out at the end, but when you fire your coach, you move on, you keep double faulting like crazy. That's a you problem. Let's put it that way. So point is, Goff's serve continues to betray her. Sabalenka only had about 2 aces, but once again, 2 double faults compared to 21. Goff was just gifting away points. Goff won 79% of her first serve points and won 24% of her second serve points, and she only landed 51% of her first serves. So once again, a kind of disastrous serving performance from Goff, which is why she ended up losing. Story of her, I'd say, career up to this point. Yes, she won a U.S. Open title. That counts. Good for her. The serve is a mess, and it's been a mess for a couple years at this point. You got to figure it out. That's the main thing I'll mention, because 21 double faults is crazy for a semifinal match in a 1,000 event. So figure it out, Goff, but you're up 6-1, 4-2, and your serve completely just deteriorated. As you saw Sabalenka make the comeback, good one for her, and now she has a matchup against Zhang in the final in Wuhan. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the actual, I'd say, recap of the matches that we saw on Saturday. Do you want to briefly talk about, though, some news that came out on the ATP Tour involving one player who's in the top 20, top 25, Sebastian Korda. Korda officially is recovering from elbow surgery, so he'll be out indefinitely. Luckily for him, the season is almost over. I'm assuming he won't be back by the end of the season, so he's probably going to have to wait till Australia to make his return in 2025. Point is, though, Korda did have right elbow surgery, so hopefully makes a nice recovery. He's ranked 19th in the world, did win a title this year as he won the City Open, so good for him. Was 31-19 this year, so ended up winning a title, and I do think that Korda is a solid player, but we know mentally he's a head case, and now physically he's starting to show some signs of, once again, some, I don't want to say injury-prone nature, but his body has been struggling, I'd say, to keep pace with the schedule for the last couple of years. So we'll see how he recovers. Hopefully he recovers well, and hopefully he recovers quickly. Probably going to shut down the rest of his season, so we'll see what happens. But the point is, Korda did have surgery, so if you're looking for him, you probably won't see him in any of these events for the next couple of months. Anyway, time to get into the actual preview of the final in Shanghai, but do want to remind you once again that we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, because they have a lot of great items on their pick-a menu, and they have, for example, the NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, tennis, etc. We'll have a bunch of profit boosts as well. They also have a bunch of specials and boosts on all flex entries that you can use. And a reminder that for the upcoming entry, I'm actually going to go with a play here on Monday night. Give me Bass higher 1.5 field goals in that game against the Jets. See some field goals from him in that game. Point is, though, sign up the promo code SGPN to claim a special first-time deposit offer up to $1K in bonus cash. On a fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping what happened on Saturday. Now it's time to get into the match for Sunday between Sinner and Djokovic. Now, for this one, Sinner is actually a pretty massive favorite when you consider what you think the line would be. Now, I'm sure most people, if I asked, would think that Sinner would be favored because he's for example, number one in the world. He's won X amount of, hard court events this season. He's done well against Djokovic this year as well. You'd assume, all right, Sinner's probably like minus 150, minus 140 maybe. Not quite, minus 210. And you have Joker at around plus 180. Now, for the actual spread, you have Sinner minus 3, you have Joker plus 3. For the over-under in games, you have around 23 or 22.5. For the set spread, Sinner in straight sets is plus 125. You have Joker to win a set at minus 155. The over 2.5 sets is plus 140. Now, I alluded to it before. The head-to-head has been in favor of Sinner recently. To get into the meetings in the head-to-head, just to go through them, we saw Sinner beat Joker in the Australian Open, as that was a semifinal matchup, and Sinner did win in 4. Could have won in straight sets, to be honest. He kind of dominated the entire match. Faced off in the Davis Cup last year in the, I believe that was the semis, actually, and Sinner beat him 7-5 in the final set. Saw the ATP Finals last year. They faced off twice. Saw Sinner lose to Joker in the final, but beat him in the group stage, so they split those 2 matches. And you ended up seeing, once again, in Wimbledon, they faced off in 2023 and 2022. Joker won both. So focusing on the hard court events that we've seen from the last basically year or so, Sinner is currently 3-1. So he has been very good against Joker in the last couple years on hard court. So we'll see if that continues in this one. Minus 210, though, I think is a massive price. Now, for the actual path of both guys have been very good. Sinner's dropped 1 set in the entire event, dropped the first set to Javeri a couple of rounds ago. Last 3 matches, though, were in straight sets. Then again, you could argue that the path has been, I'd say, moderately difficult, but not extremely difficult. Ended up beating Makic, a pretty lucky draw there for him. I know Makic is good. That was supposed to be Alcaraz, so definitely an easier opponent there for the semis, but beat Medvedev, who I think in hindsight was going to look a bit underwhelming against Sinner with the speed of these hard courts, but point is Medvedev's still a top 5, top 10 player, and they have good at that history, and Sinner killed him, 6-1, 6-4. Beat Shelton, good win. Shelton beat him here last year, so nice revenge there in straight sets. Etcheverry went 3 sets, after he ended up dropping the first set in a breaker. Won the second set 6-4, then won the third set 6-2, and he beat Daniel in the first round, I should say, in straight sets. Now, or first match, because he had a bye. But you know what I mean. First match, he won straight sets. As for Joker, he's only dropped 1 set, dropped a set to Mensik, where he had the yips once again for the final couple games. He was up a break in that set, serving for the set, actually. So Joker was about 5 minutes away from not dropping a set in the entire event, and now he's dropped 1 set in the entire event instead. So he ended up beating Fritz in straight sets, beat Mensik in 3, beat Safulin in straight sets, beat Kaboli in straight sets, and beat Mickelson in straight sets. Should have been a much easier win against Mickelson, but he blew a couple breaks. So once again, he's been great, but both guys have only dropped 1 set, so I'm expecting to see a lot of high-quality tennis. Should be a fun matchup that maybe comes down to the wire again, but both guys have looked very good, and I'm not surprised that once again we have a matchup of these 2 guys who are really, really good on hard court facing off in the final. And to get into quickly the outrights for the event, I did go pretty chalky, and it paid off. For the outrights for the event, I ended up giving out Papiron as the massive long shot at 200-1, which didn't work out, but whatever. 200-1 took a flyer. Took Alcaraz at 210, Sinner at 333, and Joker at 4-1. So I automatically win an outright with either Sinner at 333 or Joker at 4-1. Can't complain. No reason to hedge anything because we have both guys. So once again, looking forward to actually watching the match, and it should be entertaining. Now, for the actual price said before, I think 210 is pretty steep. I understand that Sinner is the best player in the world, and I understand that he won both Grand Slams on hard court this season, and I understand that he is 3-1 in the last 4 in the head-to-head against Joker. But it does seem to me that this price is pretty large. I would have Sinner at minus 140, minus 150. Joker's been great. He's been serving very well. He's been broken 1 time in his last 4 matches combined, and that was because he got the yips at the end of the first set. So, against Mensik. So, I think Joker is definitely live to win this. Do I think he's going to? Probably not. I'm going to lean to Sinner on this one, but I think that Joker can and probably will win a set. I like the over in this matchup. Don't mind the games. But 210 is really disrespectful. I think Joker can once again hang in there. I think he will not roll over, and I think you're going to get a very close matchup that goes down to the end. So I think you might see a third set, maybe a third set tiebreak even. But give me the over. Give me the team total overs for both guys, and I am going to go with the over 2.5 sets at plus 140. Close match. I think Sinner does win, but Joker's not going to once again roll over, and I don't see Sinner steamrolling him. I think it's a close matchup that comes down to the wire, but I am going to go with Sinner to get the job done based on his hard court expertise that we've seen over the last couple of months. Anyway, point is that's going to wrap it up for the actual preview of the final in Shanghai. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. But remember, once again, we are brought to you by BetUS because BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. Easy to deposit using crypto and get lightning fast payouts. US players are always welcome. And a reminder, sign up and deposit $100 and automatically get entered into a raffle for a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. A reminder, use the sign up link and go get a 125% deposit bonus in your first 3 deposits. Go to sportscampodcast.com/BetUS, sportscampodcast.com/BetUS to get 125% deposit bonus in your first 3 deposits. Once again, promo code SGPN. So then it will send you BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sportsbook platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive models in seconds. And a reminder, get predictions with models on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me. A Rhythm will give you a prediction on every game and player props. A reminder, they give you a bunch of stats. They give you research and trend analysis, give you more betting insight. And a reminder, you can try it out for free for 7 days. Get a 7-day free trial by going to sportscamp.com/Rhythm, sportscamp.com/RATHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the final in Shanghai between Sinner and Djokovic. Now it's time for the lock and dog pick. For the lock, I am going to go to a team total, actually. I am going to go with Sinner team total over 12.5 games at -140. Coverage why I'm going to go with this. First reason, shopping around 12.5 is a great number at -140. This is on DraftKings. I saw Bet Rivers at 13.5. Most offshore books had 13. Give me the 12.5 at -140. I'll lay the juice. But Sinner has gone over this team total in 8 of his last 10 matches. We've seen him win a couple matches in straight sets recently with some competitive sets. Saw it in the semis against Makic. That was a 7-5 in the second set. So that ended up landing 13 for the team total. Had 13 against Shelton. Had 3 sets against Echeverry. Going back to Beijing, he had a couple competitive sets as well, and a couple of sets dropped. So based on that overall history, which I'll mention in a second, and based on the actual Sinner form recently, I think the team total is too low. I think Sinner could still win this match in straight sets and go over, like we saw in the semis. You get a breaker in there, Sinner wins in straight sets, and you go over anyway. But I don't see Sinner either getting dominated or dominating in this matchup in straight sets. I see at least one competitive set, and I think that's going to send this over anyway. Give me the team total over at 12.5. Sinner could lose this match and still go over. So I do like, once again, the multiple paths to victory for this actual play. That's going to be my lock. Sinner team total over 12.5 at -140 as my lock. Also going to mention, though, Sinner has gone over this number in 2 of the last 3 non-Grand Slam head-to-head meetings. So you are looking at these matches being competitive, and I think you're looking at Sinner once again getting into a pretty solid overall form again on the hard court slate. And I think that you're looking at what should be a competitive matchup. Both guys have served very well, so you might not get many breaks here. Give me the over for the team total as my lock. For my dog, alluded to it before, not going to go Joker money line, but I am going to go with the marathon prediction. Give me the over 2.5 sets at +140. 3 of the last 4 head-to-head meetings did not end in straight sets, including the Australian Open meeting earlier this year. But you have seen both guys tend to showcase their skills for at least one set, and as a result, you get a marathon out of it. But 3 of the last 4 in the head-to-head have once again not ended in straight sets, so I do like the price here, +140. Both guys, though, have been great. They've only dropped 1 set each in the entire event, so based on how well both guys are playing, I think both guys will have moments here. I think that Joker is going to be more live than the odds suggest, and I do think that he is definitely going to be able to get a set done, or at least remain extremely competitive in a set. In theory, Sinner could win via breaker and then maybe like a 7-5 or 7-6, and that's just unfortunate. But based on the head-to-head history and based on the form of both guys, +140 I think is a great price. So I'm going to go with Joker and Sinner to each win a set here at a very good plus money price. So once again, my plays for the final here in Shanghai, the lock's going to be on Sinner, team total over 12.5 at -140. And my dog's going to be on, once again, the Joker Sinner over 2.5 sets at +140. Bit of overlap. Not entirely. You can still win the lock while also losing the dog. So not an automatic win if you win one or the other. But the point is you are in pretty good shape if you cash the dog here for Sinner to go over his actual team total. Either way, that's going to wrap it up for the entire tournament here in Shanghai. For the upcoming schedule, have to mention it, we have 3 upcoming ATP events. So after having a 1,000, we have 3 separate smaller tournaments. You have an event going on in Almaty. You have a match. You have an event going on in Stockholm. I'm trying to think if it's Almaty or Almaty. I think it's Almaty, actually. So you have an event in Almaty in Kazakhstan. You had an event in Stockholm, in Sweden, and you have an event in Antwerp, in Belgium. So we're going to preview all 3 of those events in the next episode with outrights and, of course, lock and dog picks for each of them. So we're going to do one episode, only one set of lock and dog picks, but there will be 3 separate set of outrights for the actual episode. Stay tuned for that, probably coming out tomorrow. Depends on qualifying. We got to see if we have lines for quarters or not, which, of course, is a very profitable angle for the smaller events. So we're going to hopefully get quarter odds. We'll see what happens, but we can't figure that out now. We're going to have to figure that out in a day or so. Either way, though, a reminder before I officially end it, a reminder to like, subscribe on YouTube, and a reminder, please leave a rating or review on Spotify or Apple. Check out the merch store as well for the SGPN website. And once again, check out Tennis Game Podcast merch. And a reminder, you can find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on the NBA show, WNBA show, the MLB show as well. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.